Well, hello, my friends. I'm really glad you're here today. I have been really looking forward to this particular conversation about how boundaries prevent burnout, because this is something I see coming up a lot. And I see that we actually are empowered to prevent our own burnout. And yet, because of our nature, our people pleasing, our peacekeeping, our overgiving, our overachieving, that drive within us is having us overcompensate for the ways in which we feel inadequate, the ways in which we feel unworthy, and we are driving ourselves into burnout. So that is what we are going to be looking at today. Before we go there, I want to just simply remind you that my latest book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, is out in the world, and the ebook is just $1.99. So makes it super easy to grab it. And I'm just going to pop that right here into the comments to make it easy for you. I've got the link right there for you if it is something that you want to grab. So, oops, I see there's a little thingy there. I'm going to take care of it. All right, there we go. All right, good. So, hey, Kellyanne. Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you here. Hi, Sweet Pat. Hi, Monica. Nice to see you here. Very happy that you're here. And again, setting boundaries will set you free. Out in the world right now, and you can get your copy. The ebook is just $1.99, and I popped the link in the comments above. So as we are looking at this conversation about boundaries and burnout, I first want to, hey there, Kathy. I first want to give you my definition of burnout, because burnout and stress are very different. And a lot of us will walk around saying, some version of I'm so burned out. And burnout is really about being stressed, being overwhelmed, being exhausted, and still thinking or worrying or even obsessing about not doing enough. So the burnout is the added energy that we bring to the stress and the overwhelm and the exhaustion. So the burnout is the way in which we are carrying those things. That is what is burning us out. So we are spinning the stress, the overwhelm, and the exhaustion. We're spinning that into burnout because we're also placing judgment on ourselves about the way that we are not enough, the way that we are not doing enough. So I want to give you some tips on how you can begin to use boundary setting and boundary maintaining to support your health and not burn out. So the first piece is, and I will always say that the number one telltale sign that boundaries need to be put into place is noticing our resentment rising. So the more resentment we feel, the more likely our own boundaries are porous or are non-existent. So we want to start paying attention to the resentment levels as they rise. And what I want to remind you about when we're looking at boundaries is, and you've likely heard me say this before if you've been with me a while, that no one else is crossing your boundaries but you. So if your boundaries are being crossed, you're the one crossing them. And this happens in the way that we allow people or enable people to cross them. And this happens in the way that we actually say one thing but do another. So the resentment that we're likely feeling, we often think that we're feeling resentful towards someone else, but underneath it, we'll actually discover that we're feeling resentful toward ourselves because we are the ones who crossed the boundary. So again, if your boundary is being crossed, it's you who is crossing it. And I know that that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because I can't tell you how many times a client will come to me and say some version of, I tried to set a boundary, but he or she keeps crossing it. And so we're moving you out of blame and victim, and we're moving you into responsibility and empowerment. The beautiful part of this conversation about boundaries is we have so much more power than we've ever given ourselves credit for. We simply have to give ourselves permission to step fully into that power and take responsibility for our lives. So when we are setting boundaries, whether we're setting a boundary with ourselves or we're setting a boundary with someone else, the boundary is always between me and me. The boundary is always between you and you, even if there's someone else involved, because it begins and ends with you, since you are the one who is responsible to hold and honor and respect the boundary. So this means we have to start getting really clear on our limits. So I define boundary as the limit that we set around what we will or will not do, will or will not tolerate, will or will not accept. And so it's really about knowing for ourselves what is okay and what is not okay. It's really about the delineation of where I end and you begin. It's about taking responsibility for what is ours and not taking responsibility for what is not ours. So again, that burnout that we were talking about at the beginning, and the burnout of being stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted, and thinking and worrying and obsessing over not doing enough, is coming from that place of the overgiving, the overdoing, the taking more responsibility than is ours, the believing that we can manage someone else's experience, the believing that we can make someone else happy or make someone else mad. So I want to just take a moment here and say hey to some peeps who've just joined us. Hi, Teresa. And hi there, Wendy. I would say setting boundaries helps to get out of depression too. Absolutely. See, boundaries are good for what ails ya. Absolutely true. Hey, Vinny. Hi, Naomi and Alyssa. Hi, Missy. And Kimberly and Allie. Hey there. And hi, Gina. And hi, Linda. And hi, sweet Stephen. And hello, ageless Deborah. I'm glad that you're here. Welcome. So we really want to look at these limits that we're setting. And when it comes to burnout, I think the number one way in which we have a leak around our boundaries is time. So I've said this before, that time is not a renewable resource. We all know this. I'm not the first one to say it, but we can always make more money. We can always find ways to boost our energy, but 24 hours in a day is what we get. And so if we spend our time pleasing other people, if we spend our time giving to everyone else and putting ourselves on the back burner, if we spend our time making sure that everything is okay for everyone else, we're essentially spending our time. And so that comes at a really high cost. And then what also is leaving us in that place of burnout is we're too burned out to actually look at what we need. We're so busy making sure that everyone else has what they need that we are too drained to look at our own needs, and then we go without, and the cycle continues. The cycle of resentment continues. So this is about getting really intentional with our time. We need to value and honor our time in order for anyone else to. So this can look like the ways in which, so let me just say right out, we teach people how to treat us. So if we've set a boundary around our time in a certain way, and then we cross it, we're teaching someone else that will be available even when we say we're not. I see this a lot with my entrepreneurial clients. We can set a boundary around, I only, here's when I'm available. I'm available, Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5. I'm just making this up. And I don't respond Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't answer the phone. I don't respond to emails. You'll hear from me between Monday and Thursday. And then what happens is a call comes in on Friday at noon and they answer the phone. What happens is we've just taught someone else that we are available when we said we weren't. And part of this is dealing with our own anxiety that is underlaying. Part of this is checking in with the mindset we're working with. Are we working with this fixed mindset, this poverty mindset? Are we working with this mindset that we're going to get in trouble, that we're going to get punished, that something's going to happen bad if we don't answer the phone? Or are we able to actually stand in the truth that we are teaching people how to treat us? We are making ourselves available when we want to be available, and that it is absolutely okay to give yourself permission to take the time you need for yourself, for your family, for your other interests. So being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you're working 24/7. It doesn't mean you have to be on 24/7. In fact, working period doesn't mean you need to be on 24/7. This is a construct that we've bought into. And so it's about learning how to set the boundaries that give us our time back so we're not caught up in that overwhelm. Naomi, I've noticed my resentment rising with some relationships. Very good indicator for me to set boundaries. I absolutely love the timing of this topic today. I hit my limit yesterday and I'm ready to make some more healthy changes. Fabulous. Fabulous. Hi, Patricia. Time, right? And hi, Wendy. Thanks to you, I've stopped answering the phone during weekends for clients. It feels like freedom and relaxed time. Beautiful. So one of the best things that you can do for yourself to prevent burnout is set the boundary around time for yourself and then adhere to it. Because what you're really doing is you're treating yourself like your most sacred client. So you're setting, and what you want to do is you want to let people know. You can let them know in auto reply emails. You can let them know in outgoing voicemails. You can let people know in a contract at the beginning of working together. You can let people know, here is my availability and here is the best way to contact me. And here is when you can expect to hear back from me. Now, along these same lines, and this goes in terms of work and in terms of everything in life. It is about giving people realistic expectations of what you're available for, so that you are from the outset making it clear what you will or will not do. So this can happen across the board with family, with friends, with coworkers, in any scenario, making it really clear about what you are available for. So again, boundaries are not expecting anyone else to change. Boundaries are not about wanting anyone to do anything different. Boundaries are about you knowing your limits and what you're going to do to take care of yourself in the process. So part of this is for you creating realistic expectations. So again, back to entrepreneurs, and I have a whole other Facebook Live that we'll be doing in a couple of weeks around entrepreneurs and boundaries. But another example is really getting clear on what your time frame is for delivery and how much you're charging to make sure that you're covering what you need to. I see across the board, entrepreneurs especially, not charging enough and not quoting enough time for a project. We want to say yes so quickly. We're in that knee-jerk yes, and we want to adhere. We think that the client's urgency is ours, and so we overpromise, which often has us underdeliver or causes extreme stress and burnout because we haven't allotted enough time. And then we feel resentful because we haven't charged enough, and the resentment is going toward the client, even though that's misguided. So it's simply an example of the way in which we're adding to, we're like I said before, burnout is stress, overwhelm, and exhaustion that is coupled with hour thinking and worrying and obsessing over not doing enough. So we're causing our own burnout. And I really want you to connect with that. Let's see. Naomi, have I told you how much I love you, Nancy, my queen of boundaries? Thank you, sweetheart. Hi, Maura. Hi, Tamara. Thank you for this. I can see this is how I did burn out in my job. I gave too much time and energy and nothing was left for me. But I was in that cycle you described. Wow, I can see it. Right. Hi, Amanda. Maura, yesterday I've set aside my time to implement some new things. Great. Chef, set myself new bedtime to get 9 hours of sleep and no phone after 10 p.m. Self-care, self-love. Absolutely. I always say selfish, self-care, and self-love are three sisters whose job it is to support us in honoring ourselves. Naomi, I cannot wait for that live about entrepreneurs. Yes, it's coming soon. Amanda, Nancy taught me the best lessons in charging enough about 3 years ago, and I haven't looked back. Yes, ma'am. Hi, Trace. That's me, undercharge and then resent my client for all the work I'm not being paid for. Yep, it's so common. It's so common. Hi, CJ. I know it's you, Chris. Stephen made a huge change in my relationships with clients when I started charging what I'm worth. Much better outcomes for me and them. Absolutely. So you guys, Tracy, Stephen, Naomi, you guys are definitely going to want to tune in when I do the conversation about boundaries and the sane entrepreneur, because you'll see the ways in which our people pleasing and overgiving and wanting and caring more, abandoning ourselves for the sake of the other, ties right in with the way that we sell ourselves short. Yes. So we're looking at, the way that we're managing our time and being intentional with our time, understanding that we teach people how to treat us, that we need to value and honor our time in order for anyone else to. We also want to show up consistently. So again, this is staying in integrity around what you say and what you do. This is how to be with anyone at work, but also how to be with your family, how to be with your kids, how to be with your partner, how to be with your mother. Show up consistently around what you say you'll do and what you actually do. You want to keep your behavior in alignment with the intention, so that if we're consistent, again, it's the teaching people how to treat us. And it's letting people know what we're available for. So we want to be able to set apart the time we need to focus on what is essential for us. So yes, we're talking about work, but we're also talking about, my morning meditation is essential. I set aside time for it. Any of my non-negotiables, the things that I'm not willing to live without, the things that I'm choosing carefully and consciously to curate into my life, I'm setting aside time for them and I'm protecting that time. That is going to support us in not burning out. That is a very important boundary that we can set for ourselves. We also, as I was saying, we want to create realistic and necessary expectations of ourselves and of others, and we want to give people what we're available for and not, so that they don't have unrealistic expectations of us. I feel it is really important to let everyone in our lives know what our time frame looks like, what we're available for, what we're not, what can be expected of us in certain time and what cannot be. Really, really important. And another thing that I think is critical is getting clear on your own needs, especially when it comes to things like your personality. So I am an introvert. As much as I may look sometimes like an extrovert, I am an introvert. By definition, introvert and extrovert is about, and there's also omnivert. But an introvert it's really about the ways in which you recharge. So I recharge in aloneness. Extroverts recharge in connection and with people. So it's about knowing how to even manage your own energy and give yourself what you need to be at your best. So when we're in that place of overgiving and people pleasing, we have our finger on the pulse of what everyone else needs. We often don't have our finger on the pulse of what we need. We get hung up on thinking that it's selfish or that it's indulgent to take care of ourselves in this way. And the truth of the matter is, we're no good to anybody. We're no good to anyone if we are not good to ourselves first. So it's the old oxygen mask, analogy, but it's real. And so I want you to consider, what do you need for yourself to be able to show up at your best? Let's see. Hey, Marla, nice to see you here. Hi, Marlene. Maura, this is absolutely helpful. I want to offer an automatic writing class. Also need to know how not to have the knee-jerk reaction, as I'm excited to places to offer it, but not sell myself short. Yes, exactly. Kellyanne, I was charging enough, no resentment. However, it might be getting close to a time for a raise. Absolutely. And so that, it's in your case, it's not about the resentment piece, but it's about knowing when it's time for you to actually begin charging even more. Yeah. And really, it's about stepping even more powerfully into your worth. Hey, Kylie, honey. Maura, yes, show up consistently. My son definitely challenges me in working on that. Yes, absolutely. Kids will love to challenge that. Kathy, I just turned down a client because she wasn't paying my fee. Beautiful. And, we can get caught in the whole, there's not enough out there, or I have to take this client because of the money or whatever. But being able to stand in saying no when it's not right for you, what that makes space for, so there's the expression, give up good for great. That's what this does. It makes great possible. It actually creates the space to be available for what is right. Oh, good. CJ saying, I'm diving into everything I can learn because I'm finally jumping. Fabulous. Naomi, I felt a sense of relief from listening to this today. My shoulders have been so tight, my breath has been shallow, and I've been so unedged and reactive, and this is not how I typically operate. I'm ready for more change. Awesome. Diana, a friend's relationship has been toxic for well over a year. The friend doesn't live with the spouse anymore and has been asking for a divorce for over a year, but the spouse won't consider it. My friend doesn't want to file because my friend wants to be mutual. My friend is wondering. So this is something that, it's really difficult when you're sort of asking for a friend, because this is actually you stepping over the line and taking responsibility for something that isn't yours. So this is about the way that you might be using this situation with your friend so that there's something that you're not looking at. So this is something for your friend to deal with. If you want to, suggest something to her, you could certainly suggest one of my books, or suggest she join us on a Facebook Live, or in Transform Together, my free Facebook group. I've got lots of resources for her. I love it, Teresa, hillbilly introvert over here. Kellyanne, yes, an omnivert is a mixture of both. CJ, learning that I have boundaries and a voice has been so amazing, right? When you don't think you do, it is. And Naomi saying 100%, that is real for an introvert. Tamara, how do we set those internal boundaries with ourselves, getting to bed at a certain time? So this is a great question, and this is all about accountability and the promise that you make to yourself, and what is it going to take. So if you are identifying a specific bedtime for yourself, what I like to do is reverse engineer, and so work backwards. So for me, I know that I want to literally be lights out at 9:30. I'm an early to bed, early to rise kind of gal. I want to be lights out at 9:30. So I reverse engineer that around the time that I turn off technology. I always take a piping hot shower before I go to sleep. I put my phone into airplane mode. I listen to a 10-minute sleep meditation that I never hear the end of because I'm out like a light. But in order for that to happen, I have to look at what's happening earlier in the evening to get me to the place where that is possible. So it's always about what's it going to take for me to do this. I have clients who I coach literally around bedtime and rising. And in the beginning, sometimes it helps to have accountability with someone else. So you might want to get yourself an accountability partner. I have clients who will literally text me and say, lights out or good morning. You know, if we've agreed upon that, and we'll do it for a couple of weeks. It's sort of like training wheels to get them into the routine of doing it on their own. You might want to see if there's someone in your life that you can send a text to saying, you know, I'm going to sleep, I'm up now. And it's not about responding. It's not about having to respond or having to get a response. It's more about the accountability of sending the text. So those are a couple of ways that it might work for you. Kellyanne, I am introverted, but I was punished as a child if introverted. So you're so punished if you sort of kept to yourself. And It's interesting. I resonate with that quite a bit. I kept to myself a lot as a child, and my parents really thought something was wrong with me because I was so like quiet and bookwormy and, you know, a nerd. I was like in my room with a book and being a straight A student, and my mother especially thought I should be like out partying like a normal kid. So I resonate with that. Janice, I just raised my prices and I had a client congratulate me. I was shocked. Fantastic. Wendy, I always get the answer, I am too expensive, but I'm not lowering my price. Right. And so you're part of it might be that you are not honing in on your ideal client, that you're not honing in on the person who you are most best fit to serve, if that's the response. The other thing might be to look at, is this true or not? You know, is your pricing more than the market will bear? Is your pricing preventing you from having other clients? And you know, if some people are saying yes and some people are saying it's too expensive for a certain segment. And then it might be that you create some other things that can work for them. So this is called having a value ladder in your business. So, you know, I might have top tier private coaching, but I also have group coaching that is significantly more affordable, so that there's something for everyone. Or I have my membership, which is, you know, super duper, you know, accessible and affordable. So it's about, you know, giving people layers, and that might be something you want to grow into. So Diana, your friend doesn't have Facebook, but is listening with you. Okay, so I would have to scroll back. Right. So your friend is saying she doesn't want to file for divorce because she wants it to be mutual. So what that's about is wanting someone else to change. And it may not be mutual. So you have to weigh what you're doing here. Are you going to keep staying in what you're in, waiting for it to be mutual, or are you going to take action for yourself? The book of mine that I would highly suggest reading is Jump and Your Life Will Appear. 100%. So Diana, I would suggest that that's the book your friend reads. Abby, I set a boundary that I didn't want to visit from my in-laws who aren't local. They literally live across the country. They came anyway and accidentally ran into my daughters in the lobby of our building who were with the babysitter. I feel like my boundary, the limit I set, was crossed, but how do I enforce that boundary? Right. So the boundary is that they don't stay with you. The boundary is around the time that they can see you or see your family. So you can't control them getting on a plane or not. You can control your side. You can control what's on your side of the fence. You can control the way in which you engage with them and what you allow them to do, or what you allow them to do in terms of the way that you show up with them. So even if they've gotten on a plane and flown across, you can decide about what you can decide what you're available for or not. Just because they're there doesn't mean that you have to be with them. And that might be a hard boundary to set and a hard boundary to hold, but it's yours to set and hold. Alyssa, love the oxygen math. Yes. And Diana, good, great. All right. Ooh, this was rich and juicy, and I hope helpful for all of you. We do not need to be in burnout. We stay in burnout because, again, we're overcompensating for some way in which we think we're not enough, we're not doing enough. We're in worry, we're in obsession about the not enoughness. And so this is also about giving yourself permission to live your life, permission to breathe, permission to have space, permission to play. All right, my dears, I hope that you all found this super helpful. Let me just see. Kellyanne, I have offered 30 minutes service rather than an hour when I had clients who wanted my service but could not pay the hour. Then I gave the most value I could within 30 minutes. This was an option when I did not want to reduce my rate. Great. Thanks for throwing that in there, Kelly. Good. All right. I'm glad that this was helpful for you. Once again, Setting Boundaries to Set You Free is out in the world. And if you haven't gotten your copy yet, you can grab it right now. And I'd love to know I'd love to know how it's impacting you as we continue our Facebook Live conversations over the next several weeks. You are very, very welcome, and we'll be back together soon.